Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name's Brian if you happen to be new around here, but for returning subscribers, welcome back and thank you so much for coming in and checking out this guide. In today's video, we're going to be diving into the Machinist for PvP, and yes, this is also a controller guide, so I'm going to talk about my layout for the Machinist, but overall, I hope everybody can get some value out of this guide and this video. So without further ado, I think it's time we dive into the skill overview, then we'll talk about my layout and just generally tips and tricks when it comes to PvP in the world of Final Fantasy XIV. If you guys have any questions, comments, or anything you need that you're looking for in terms of guides, please sound off in the comments below. I am directing kind of the process of which that I'm releasing these things based off of y'all's requests and feedback. So thank you guys so much for those. Keep those suggestions coming, and we'll see you clearly as we knock out all the rest of the PvP controller guides for Final Fantasy XIV. So let's go ahead and dive in. First and foremost, I think it's just best to go ahead and keep this rolling over at Teleport, Limbs of Lamenza, and the Wolf's Den Pier. PvP kicks off at level 30 with the jobs, and there's going to be a quest that will actually take you out to the pier, but the reason why I want to direct you here in this guide is because you actually have a PvP UI and the setup that is PvP mode. It's different, completely separate from PvE, so it's important to do that. Also, from a HUD layout perspective, now that we're on the subject, I do recommend copying one of your HUDs, basic what you're using, save it to a new slot that you're not using, and set this up as your PvP profile. That way, when you come into PvP, you don't necessarily have to impact the way that you like things in PvE, but start exactly where you're used to and comfortable with. For example, clicking on duty will allow you to actually select and manage all the different, specific duty-specific PvP elements for your UI. Now, also, the final kind of tip before we dive in, the PvP profile. That's where you're going to find all this information for you as it relates to the job skills. Like I said, PvP is completely separate from PvE, so this is where you're going to find your abilities to be able to be set. And I do currently use one macro, especially for ground placement skills, so note that we'll cover the macros here just in a second. So let's go ahead and review our skill sets and see what they actually do, and hopefully this will be a help, and then we'll talk about my layout and why I've got it positioned the way I do. Blast charge, this is your basic attack. This is the main attack that you're doing. The Machinist doesn't have any combos like that of the melee, so you're going to have this charge. Now, it does have a cast time, and it does build up heat gauge every time you use it. The thing here, though, is that once you do build up a maximum, you actually get insta-cast abilities. You can move while using blast charge, but you do move at a slower speed, so that's going to be kind of part of the strategy there. Then you've got Scattergun. This is going to deliver an attack with a potency of 4,000 to all enemies in a cone before you. It actually strikes twice when hitting only a single target. It also have a 10 yum knockback on said target, and it's got a 20-second recast time. Then you've got Drill, delivers a ranged attack with a potency of 9,000. Potency is increased to 18,000 while under the effect of analysis. Now note that when you see these potencies, this is actually a reflection of their HP that you're going to hit them for, unless they're doing any kind of mitigation. Since gear doesn't necessarily, or doesn't at all, actually mitigate damage, they're going to just tell you the base level of damage that you're going to do unless you're buffing it or you're debuffing it. And you see here clearly that analysis is going to increase the damage that Drill does, and that's going to be something that's set to your skill. Then you got Wildfire, covers the target's body in a slow burning pitch, deals damage to target and all enemies nearby it when time expires. The potency is increased by 4,000 for each of your own weapon skills that you land prior to the end of the effect. Landing 3 weapon skills will cause the slow burning pitch to detonate immediately. So you can get up to 3 weapon skills, making this a 1200 potency attack. But be sure to be using your Wildfire. This is going to be critical to your damage. And you can see here, it's also an AoE. So anybody that they're standing next to is going to take damage from it. Then you got Bishop Auto Turret. This is actually what I have macroed, but I'll show you the base skill here. Deploys an area of effect battle turret that will deliver auto attacks to enemies within range with a potency of 4,000. That's going to last for 10 seconds. It also increases target's damage taken by 10%, and the additional effect for 5 seconds, that's going to last for 5 seconds, and creates a barrier that absorbs damage equivalent of a 2000 potency heal, and that's going to last for you for 5 seconds. So there's a lot of different buffs here. So I think essentially like this is going to obviously allow you to put out more damage. It's got a 30-second recast time, so every 30 seconds you should at least be deploying this somewhere in hopes that you can get and take advantage of it. This is perfect for Crystal Conflict or anything where people are kind of guarding a point, because it's just going to kind of pulsate that damage out there for 10 seconds. Analysis grants additional effects to Drill, Bioblaster, Air Anchor, and Chainsaw. When these weapon skills are executed, it's going to last for 10 seconds. Drill additional effect is potency is increased by 200%, which we've already seen. Bioblaster is going to add a heavy of 75% to the target. Air Anchor is going to have its potency increased by 50% and add a bind effect. Oh, and the bind effect, excuse me, becomes a stun effect. And then your Chainsaw additional effect is 5% chance to deal damage equal to 100% of the target's HP. Massive, massive one shot in that mind. Then for your limit break, you've got Marksman's Spite, delivers an attack with a potency of 36,000 potency. That can basically kill them as long as they've got some damage on them. So it's really good to have that and be using this. So be sure to make sure you got use of your limit break ready to let your party know. Now, those are the skills that all get set. Everything else here is auto upgrade. So Heat Blast is when you get that 5 stacks of your blast charge going. Delivers a pack with an attack with a potency of 6,000. Obviously, it requires overheat. It's instant, so it's just going to then increase your potency by using blast charge to Heat Blast. But again, 5 charges of that to go here, and then you get the instant cast, so it's not going to slow you down on your movement. Bioblaster deals an attack with a potency of 4,000 to all enemies in a cone before you. This with your additional effect, it fixed target with a heavy 75% while under the effect of analysis. That's going to last for 5 seconds. Does a damage over time of potency of 4,000. That's going to last for 9 seconds. And then it translates into air anchor in this regards. So note that your drill becomes Bioblaster, becomes air anchor, becomes chainsaw. So there's a combo build up there. Air Anchor's got that potency of 8,000. So Drill is base 9,000. Bioblaster is 4,000 with the dot that's applied. Air Anchor is 8,000 with the bind applied. The effect becomes stun and the potency is increased by 50%, when under the effect of analysis. So analysis is going to affect all of that. Still 2 charges here as well. So you're gonna be kind of balancing those charges in that regards. Grants Chainsaw primed, and then it can only be under the effect of Air Anchor. And then finally, Chainsaw delivers an attack with a potency of 10,000 to all enemies in a straight line before you. It's got a 3% chance to deal damage equal to that of 100% of the target's HP while under the effect of analysis. It's interesting, it says 3%. Right here it says 5%. So we're gonna take one of those values. Maybe that'll get patched in by later down the line. And so that essentially can only be triggered when targeting players riding Machina or non-player combatants. That makes perfect sense. And then Chainsaw would then revert back to Drill. Aether Mortar deals unexpected damage with a potency of 4,000 to all enemies nearby, increases target's damage taken by 10%, creates that barrier. So this is essentially what is happening when you've deployed your Bishop auto turret. And then we get into our base skills here: Recuperate, Standard Issue, Elixir, Purify, and Guard, as well as Sprint. So we'll talk about essentially those here in just a second. Now, just as a note before we kind of get into the core system of Sprint, I actually have it bound under a macro under button configuration and system to right on the right click of the stick. So that's essentially where I've got that set to macro 99. And then in my user macros, under the individual section, I've got 99 spot here, and you can see here PvP action sprint. And while we're here for Bishop auto turret, I have PvP action Bishop auto turret to the target that I'm selected. And if I don't have a target selected, it's going to default to going ahead and just allowing me to place it. And I'll demonstrate that for you guys here in just a second. All right, so now let's go ahead and get into my layout. By default over here on the ABN X and Y, I have the blast charge, drill, analysis, and recuperate. Recuperate to slam on when you're getting focused down. Purify up here for a double tap to be able to kind of get out of bad if they are sitting here blocking me overall. Then on the left hand side, I got wildfire, my limit break, mark and spite, standard issue elixir, and guard, all listed over here. On the left hand side, limit break, good match, hello, and attacking target, along with purify, my elixir, and my guard which are going to help prevent damage in that regards for that. You can see here on the double cross pop bar expanded, this is where I've got my scatter shot. I got wildfire again, my bishop's auto turret, and purified to get out of bad. And then on the expanded cross hop bar, I have basically my combo that I want to initiate: wildfire, analysis, and then drill, or essentially as that upgrades itself. And the reason is you don't want to end up sleeping on those analysis to help increase the damage and the burst in which that things are happening. So if I go ahead and place my bishop's auto turret, I can do that via the macro, and you're going to see that's going to continue to pulse out here as I go ahead and do my attacks as just a base level. You can see here my heat gauge building up and building up and building up, eventually getting to 5 stacks, in which that I have 5 seconds to do my heat blast, which should get me roughly around 3 attacks before it falls off. All right, so here's where we want to have some fun. Again, the scatter is a cone base, so if I do that, again, it will attack twice and put some damage out on the target. But let's go ahead and play around. For the combo itself, you can either use the D-pad if you're so inclined and you're not having to do a lot of movement, but I want to have easy access to be able to build up this combo itself. So I'm going to put my turret out there and do wildfire, analysis, drill. Kind of maybe go back into my default targets. Maybe I'll do bioblaster. Maybe I'll do air anchor when it comes back up. I could air anchor and get a boost, but I do want to keep that analysis available, and it will be up for 10 seconds, so you can actually pre-analysis and then put out chainsaw again for that hope in which that you can get that 5% chance that you're going to one-shot them. Now as their life comes down, again keeping wildfire up so you can kind of output as much damage as humanly possible as of when that procs and goes off. I have access to my limit break here, easy, to really put out a massive amount of damage and usually finish off a target, especially if they're 75% life or lower, and that ends up being something really dadgum powerful. Overall, I just encourage you to continue to make sure you're using analysis to upgrade your damage as absolutely much as possible. That stun ends up being pretty critical, and having that additional damage ends up being something I enjoy. But that analysis on chainsaw is kind of just too tempting to pass up. Ultimately, it might not be worth it depending on the situation at hand, but being that chainsaw is an area of effect, it gives you that option to be able to kind of get as much damage out there as possible. Anyway, guys, that's the setup that I got for the Machinist. Hopefully this has been a help. Hopefully you learned something and got something good out of this video. If you did, feel free to like, favorite, subscribe, and share. It does help the channel and these videos perform better in the YouTube algorithm, but I'll leave the choice up to you. Note that I'll be rolling out some more of these guides, especially for the PvE side, here in the coming weeks. So hopefully you guys enjoy the content, and thank you so much for being here. With all that being said, I hope you have a great day. Hope to see you in my next one. But until then, take care.
Yeah. It's time to chill out on the couch and read some comments. That's right. You know me when it comes to Destiny. I'm off with a clan, and I'm glad you're feeling better. Oh.